If you happen to find yourself aimlessly wandering on the edge of the city they call the Big Easy, at the end of Caffin Avenue they will greet you, the aging dead tree stumps of Bayou Bienvenue. They sit there in the water with birds on their branches, quiet and still as the factories in the distance. Back long ago you could find the tree roots of the forest still soaking, but now it's a dump where kids' toys go floating. Still, you can hear the sound of old life still breathing through the moss-covered branches the fungus is eating, which in turn crumble like memories receding, then turn into soil at the time of the evening. There are many stories you'll hear about life in that swamp. There are many you won't. All those have been lost. But that's how stars go, and that's how stories change. They live in our hearts and find homes in our brains. But with time, like the salt in the water, will change. There's a small story, rarely spoken out loud, often too strange to mention, yet too hard to dispel. It's more like a feeling you get when you're lost, that you'll be swallowed up and become one with the swamp. It would be funny to admit that you're feeling that way while watching a frog on a bright sunny day with a gun in your hand and the city in sight, but that's why people don't hunt near the tree stumps at night, for they say one stump is haunted by this feeling that swells, and if you don't leave its side you'll soon be overwhelmed. But it's hard to say in a bar later that night that you're afraid of tree stumps in day or at night. So this story exists as an unspoken feeling that in an old tree stump a heartbeat is beating. Our story begins like a dream half remembered, as light recedes from the fog like the burning of embers. You could smell in the soil the memories to come of strange incantations whispered to the roots of a stump, whose slow dying body gives life in the most wondrous of ways, from insects who love the low lull of decay to the fishes who eat them, then swim fast away. Then to life even stranger in a mixed-up sort of way, as if dreamed by a mind that is beginning to fade. The moon, full and bright, steeped the fog like tea water, which reflected the blood moon eclipse as the night time grew darker. With a book in their hand, their heart led the way. They had not yet realized they had gone astray, enraptured at learning the names of life all around while thumbing their book about plants to the summertime sounds, from the sweet bog gum, lilies and egrets who travel in pairs, to the names of tree stumps whose branches are bare. But soon they were lost on a spiraling path that led to a stump whose sight would be their last. Then through the thickness of summer, it seemed, there was no difference between themselves and a tree or a frog on a log, or past, present, and future. They lay there unraveling and dropped their book in the water, not an ominous death, but a joy overwhelming to become one with the swamp in the hour of the gloaming. The book in the water of the stump, it sat steeping, and somewhere the memories of a traveler lay sleeping. As the water soaked in and the pages dissolved, all life in the book began to evolve. The book, it took root and grew out through the soil that provided nutrients and dreams for a stump in turmoil, whose frantic and aging memories generated new life in the swamp that seemed had mutated. Like me, once a gator and some trash in the dump, now a beast without legs, a saw on a stump. The birds more like trees and the trash more like flowers, the frantics of spring in the late autumn hour. Time and time past, the change had gone most unnoted, yet at the bars the hunters spread rumors unmentioned that it seemed like the tree stumps had due intentions, but without words chalked it up to summer heat hallucinations. Now here we meet two new travelers who decide to explore Bayou Bienvenue on a paddle boat built of trash they find real pretty. On a hot summer's day, they say bye to the city. Though the forest was dead, a a cypress cemetery. Even there in the dump, much life was still breathing. A field of cormorants asleep on the water, osprey in the treetops, and fish in the water, gators and bugs that live in the soil, which sometimes would smell of old motor oil. Still there were flowers and grasses that sway. It was very peaceful there. They liked it that way. At times, hunters in their boats would zoom past, steering clear of the tree stumps against which the water would splash. They delved even deeper through marshlands and forests, always saying to each other, "Who knows what lies before us?" They knew they were lost and might be there till winter, but that's how it goes when you're on an adventure. Yet slowly there was a change in the days and the nights. Their hearts would flutter with strange feelings and sights, but like what it's like to be a large bird in flight or leaves at the tips of treetops at night. These thoughts they would think that were not their own, like the desire to call a tree stump their home. But it wasn't just their thoughts, which could be called cabin fever, but the plants and the animals began to grow stranger. A strange bird they had never read about or seen, whose neck was long and feathers were green. It flew around the forest with plastic sheen. They felt in their hearts a loneliness profound as it gazed into the bottom of tree stumps around. Some of its thoughts felt strange, like a song stuck out of time, whose words are crooked and foreign at times. But as you lie there asleep, you know its odd meaning. When the bird flew away, the thoughts flew off too. They laughed and said, "What strange things imaginations can do." In the darkness of night, they felt a warm, curious glow. They saw a two-headed bird as white as the snow. They watched as it nurtured and nested its eggs, while love and tenderness rushed through their hearts and their heads. It was a feeling that could be described as delightful, but it was not their own, and that feeling was frightful. Then they felt their thoughts going astray as they continued to travel, and night turned to day. They saw some strange fish, many in number, who seemed to swim in the air unencumbered. Our travelers felt for the first time the memories of water on their skin. Then as quick as they came, the fish went off again. The snake was a dazzling size, but not frightening. It moved through the air like glitter and lightning, but only to be interrupted by a sight far more unsettling, the sight of the nutria who loves to go swimming. Their travels took them deeper than ever before. Their feelings grew stranger, but not their own anymore. As the days were still hotter, they grew rather weary. These thoughts, not their own, were lovely and eerie. In the shade of a stump, they watched the hot sun going down, and their thoughts soon turned to life underground, where they found themselves gathering food from the soil and sorting old rusted metal from old motor oil. Looking for lost thoughts and old memories, they were no longer thinking as one, but as many. Mixed in with this feeling of endlessly searching, another strange feeling began slowly lurking, but no less desperate in trying to get away, of a caterpillar in the stump who had gone astray. First one ant, and then two ants, then three ants, then four. Then the slow realization that turns into horror, to be eaten alive, being eaten and eating. They felt their pincers dig into this poor grub who lie beaten. At the same time, a horror inside them was swelling, for as a caterpillar they found themselves yelling, but too many ants kept pulling and biting, then pulled underground. As the grub, they soon stopped fighting. Then they dragged the grub home and pulled it apart, then continued collecting old objects and parts, for they knew in their hearts that tonight was the night to gather at the stump as the day turns to night. For the aging old tree stump was beginning to fade, and the ritual of the blossoms was well underway. The blossoms would gather in skittering clumps around tiny objects found in the dump, then plant them around the roots of the stump. Here you could feel objects' long history, and the stump would absorb each tiny lost memory. Every creature above or below the stump felt connected. Their stories would weave and their feelings intersected, but no description of time could come close to describing what happens now. For a moment, or for eternity, all life around the stump becomes one with the ebb and flow of the swamp. All plant life and bug life, past, present, and future. Then the last sprinkling of dirt on the rusted remnants of memories, releasing the feeling that swells from the dirt with no ending. The stump is alive was more than a feeling. The feeling had passed as they watched it float quietly away, absorbing the smells in the soil as night turned back to day. It's hard to say why it decided to leave. Some would say it was dying and beginning to fade. Others would say it was full up, so it traveled away. Each one of us has a heart full of memories constantly changing, almost like a slow-moving river, remembering and forgetting. Like the eddies on the water, they can come from below, then carried away by the slow, steady flow. Some are like rocks we're slowly eroding, creating whirlpools where sometimes leaves will go floating. But life keeps on churning, the plants keep on growing, the fish eat the bugs on the water that's flowing, the osprey in tree stumps, the worms in the soil. The hunters in motorboats mix water with oil. The morning awakes to the same sights and sounds. There just isn't the heart of a tree stump around. Still spring is unstoppable. The birds keep on singing. The factories on the horizon inaudibly ringing, even if there are still no branches to catch the sun going down. Our travelers continue with a memory profound, both terror and wonder at the world all around. Where springtime would take them, they really couldn't say as they watched the last glimpses of light fade from the day.